The storm hit the city without warning. Rain fell like shattered glass from the sky, stinging cold against the faces of those rushing for shelter. But on the corner of 7th and Morrow, beneath the broken overhang of an abandoned bookstore, sat a girl who didn't flinch at the thunder or the flashing sky. Wrapped in a coat 3 sizes too big and boots that had long forgotten their soles, she sat cross-legged on a flattened cardboard box. Her eyes weren't looking at the people. They were locked on something across the street, an old stone church. Its doors were sealed shut, but the girl's gaze burned into it like she could hear something no one else did. Her name was Noor. She didn't remember where she came from, only fragments, firelight, a woman's voice chanting something soft, a silver chain pressed into her hand, and the warning, "Never let them take this from you." That chain now lay hidden under her shirt, its pendant humming faintly when the storm began. Most walked past her without notice, another forgotten soul on the pavement. But one man didn't. Zayn, fresh out of a meeting, umbrella in hand, suit soaked at the shoulders, stopped dead in his tracks. He didn't know why. Something about her expression, calm in the chaos, rooted him in place. Their eyes met. And in that brief moment, Zayn saw a flicker, not fear, not sadness, but power, a deep, ancient kind of knowing. Then lightning struck the church's steeple and the sky roared. Noor stood slowly, the rain parting slightly around her like something unseen was shielding her. She whispered something under her breath, and the pendant around her neck flared with a silver light. That was the beginning of a story no one believed. Of a girl no one understood. Of a man whose life was about to unravel at the hands of forgotten spirits, old traditions, and a homeless girl who claimed she was born of fire. Zayn was everything Noor wasn't. A tech entrepreneur raised in Islamabad but built in Dubai. He loved logic, sleek design, and the smell of new MacBooks. Raised in a progressive family, he scoffed at his grandmother's talks of Chalet, Nazar, and Jinn. He believed in what could be coded, graphed, or stored in a cloud. His life was fast, filtered, and forward-focused, until he saw Noor again. The second time was a week later. Same place, same posture, but this time she was singing, not loudly, just humming a tune that sent shivers down his spine. It was in a language he didn't know but felt like he should. He offered her food, she refused. He offered her shelter. She smiled a strange, sad smile and said, "Shelter won't save me from what follows me." Zayn laughed awkwardly. What ghosts? Her eyes turned sharp. Worse, ancestors. Zayn began to visit her daily, drawn by something he couldn't name. Noor rarely spoke of her past, but sometimes she'd mutter phrases in a dialect even Google couldn't translate. Once she warned him not to mock the doorways beneath the earth. Another time she asked if he'd ever heard of Baba Hawa, the keeper of forgotten roads. He thought she was mentally ill, but the more he listened, the more he noticed strange things. Birds always gathered near her. Dogs refused to bark at her. Once an injured cat crawled into her lap and walked away healed the next morning. Still, he dismissed it as coincidence, until the night he invited her to a corporate event. She wore a simple black dress he'd bought her and tied her hair back with a red string she insisted on wearing. At the event, everyone stared. Not because of her beauty, though she had it in abundance, but because of the way people instinctively moved aside when she walked. Like they felt something but didn't know what. Then one of Zayn's clients, an old man from interior Sind, looked at her and went pale. "You brought a Jagani here," he whispered. Zayn laughed it off again. But the man didn't, he left muttering prayers. That night Noor didn't return to her street corner. Zayn was furious. He had paid for her room, her dress, her food. He thought she'd be grateful. He began to think she'd been manipulating him with her mystery and strange ways. He found her a week later, deep in the village side of Thatta, standing barefoot at the edge of a shrine during a spiritual festival. She was chanting with others, eyes closed, face glowing in candlelight. "Is this what you left for?" he hissed. She opened her eyes. "You don't understand, they needed me." They, the ones that still linger, those you people forgot when you built your towers and silenced the drumbeats. Zayn snapped, "This is all in your head, you need help, not rituals." Noor didn't speak. But that night Zayn saw her in his dreams, dressed in white, hair loose, eyes glowing silver. She stood beside a cracked doorway in the desert, whispering, "You disrespected what you don't understand. Now it will come to collect." The next week was madness. Zayn's tech systems began failing. Files disappeared. His reflection showed bruises he didn't have. Mirrors cracked without reason. His grandmother, who had been bedridden for years, suddenly sat up and screamed. "Who did you anger, boy?" Then he dreamt again, only this time he was in an underground temple, and Noor stood before a throne of bones, not as a girl but as something older. Something revered, or feared. He woke up screaming. Noor reappeared the next day, this time in his home. No keys, no noise, she was just there. "You need to undo what you said," she whispered. "Apologize, make offering, recognize." "To who?" he asked, voice shaking. "To the ones whose names are not spoken anymore, to the desert, to the old gods your people buried but never killed." Zayn, broken and desperate, followed her. Into the interior of Sind, into caves carved with symbols older than Urdu, older than even Sanskrit. He watched her perform rituals with a group of women who never opened their eyes. He apologized, he offered, he bled. And finally the nightmares stopped, his systems restored, his grandmother passed peacefully. But most importantly, Zayn began to see. The world wasn't just cities and data and screens. There were whispers in trees, echoes in ruins, power in songs sung by forgotten lips. Zayn asked her to come live with him, not as a servant, not as a rescued girl, but as an equal, a partner, a guide. She refused. "Some of us are born to guard the doors. I can't be kept behind one." But months later, during a rainstorm much like the one they met in, she came. Noor, the girl born of fire and silence, came into his world not as a guest, but as queen. And this time it was Zayn who moved aside, and the world that bowed to her presence. Have you ever judged someone by what you think you understand? Have you ever laughed at a tradition just because it didn't fit your reality? Zayn did, and he paid the price not just in data loss or broken mirrors, but in the shaking of everything he believed to be true. This story isn't just about spirits or mystical traditions. It's about the invisible lines between modern life and ancient wisdom. About how often we dismiss what our elders tried to preserve, not because it's untrue, but because we are too busy to listen. Nor represents those forgotten both people and beliefs. She reminds us that history is not just in books, it walks among us, it sits on street corners, it waits in silence.